Hey everyone, as you've probably heard, Claude Code has been tightening in, or I should say Anthropic, has been locking down on their token usage just because of the high demand that it's going through right now. And so some people are running into limits immediately. Some people are having to change subscription plans and upgrade. Some people are pausing their work, like whatever's happening, taking place. This video is going to show you something that will allow you to run locally and still use the same Claude Code harness that you're using today, running a local model, and that you can continue on with your work. Again, the local open source models aren't as good as Anthropic's, right? The Opus 4.6 or the Sonnet 4.6. It's not going to be as top grade as the frontier models. However, they are getting relatively close. They're always, they say by default, they say 6 months behind, I think is a standard, right? With their, from what they're tracking so far, but who knows how that gap is going to close, if it will. All right, so to get started, I'll go ahead and hop into this, the actual demo portion of this. Just a quick note, there's lots of ways you can run your model locally. You have Lama, Llama CPP, many different options, right? LM Studio. This demo here is going to be using Docker Desktop. Pretty much a lot of people, most developers are probably using Docker Desktop when it comes to containerized apps and different things like that. But Docker changed the game with their Model AI runner, which I've been using consistently. It's been great. And we'll kind of go through that right now. So let me go ahead and show my terminal. And so I had the link to this repository with all the links that are referenced here are going to be in the description of the video. So don't worry about jotting that down or taking track of that now. But to just get back to it, requirements are Docker Desktop. If you want information on Docker Model Runner and what's available and the different offerings and configurations, it's there. Quick note that when you do install Docker Desktop, you will have to actually enable TCP endpoints to be able to connect to the model from, if you have an agent framework you have or your own harness. It's basically giving it a URL to be able to call out to. And they can use OpenAI's compatible endpoints or Anthropic's. They have different configurations there. Again, all within the documentation. Feel free to go through that. Links will be in below. The key thing about the URL you will be provided once you enable this. If you're running on your host machine, this is the port. You can configure the port as well. So you might have something custom if you want to, change that out if you're already using this port or you have something that you'd rather have in mind. So for the purpose of this demo, I'm running this in a dev container, as you can probably see. So I'm going to actually use this URL here for Model Runner. Just because once it's inside the container and the way the proxying goes, all that good stuff. One way to check your model list, if you're not in Docker Desktop, in the UI portion of it, you can do Docker model list. For this demonstration, I'm going to do a command since I can't actually access Docker in that way, since I'm inside Docker itself on this container. I'll have a video talking about dev containers later, but this has really changed the game for me and something I use quite often. And it really helps when you're working between multiple projects and on different teams, having shared resources, that kind of thing. The models I have right now, you see OpenAI's open source model. There's the 20 billion parameter, I believe. I have, Meta's Llama 3.3. I have Google Gemma 4, which is just released a couple weeks ago. This is the model I'm going to use, Gemma 4. So just note on that. If you do want to pull more models in without having to, again, go through the Docker UI, if you stay in the terminal mostly like I do, you'll do Docker model pull on your host machine and pull it down that way. All right, so now there's a fresh install. So first, let me show you that we do not have Claude installed. And this is why I love dev containers. I can completely destroy an environment and bring another one back up and have similar commands that I want to restart it. But this is pretty bare bones. If you look at my dev container, that when you see the repo, I'll hit Claude here and then don't see anything. So we're going to install Claude for the first time. So let me go here. It's going to have some install steps going on. Okay, we got installing Claude natively. Okay, it's successfully installed. Installation complete. All right, so now it says, okay, run Claude help. So let's do that. Let's say Claude, can't type today, help. All right, and you see we have Claude, the CLIs going. It's got all the options here. All right, so let's go ahead and clear that out. I'm going to walk you through, before I show you how to configure this locally, I'm going to show you what the experience looks like. This is going to ask you to log in and get all the subscription and stuff. So let's start off with that, just so you can see typically what you normally would go through. All right, so second page is, okay, Do you have a subscription? You have a third-party platform, that kind of thing. Let's talk about billing. Oh boy, there we go. So this is what you see when you normally would start up Claude, right? So let's back out of this. I'm going to completely destroy that terminal. And let's talk about how we start up Claude Code. Again, if you're using the host machine, this is the configuration you'll use. Notice the URL is the only thing that's different between these two. But let's just dive into the container portion of it. So Anthropic base URL. Right now, Claude Code calls out to Anthropic servers to kind of go back and forth, do web search, whatever else. The compute, the frontier models are sitting behind it. This actually going to say, okay, don't go out there, point directly to my own local machine here. So the next one is off token. We don't need an off token because we're local. It's all our compute, all our privacy, all the things locally on our machine. The model, you'll see I pointed to Gemma 4. So no surprise there. We talked about that earlier. And then they do have a fast model option. Typically, if you have something of like a nano or a mini, a distilled model that is very, very quick and not maybe as high as on the reasoning, but is a very, very fast response, you would put that here. I put Gemma 4 just for the sake of this demo. We're not going to go back and forth and go to a smaller model and that kind of thing. Now, these last two, disable auto updater, being true, that keeps the Claude Code from reaching out to the web to try and say, hey, should I update Claude Code? Just you can keep it up to date and keep it installed on your own. And then also, so that way, no traffic is going out there for that, for the updates. And then also you have Claude Code disable non-essential traffic. So this also the next part on where we can say, okay, don't go out to search the web and all that sort of stuff. So and there's also things that I've done on this, you'll see in the repo, where I've denied web fetch and web search, just because you can't use it anyways. If you use it without those and you try to allow that, it's going to say 0 searches done. Again, because you're not reaching out to their servers to be able to go do that. So yeah, so without further ado, let's go back and start this up now. We saw what the original experience was like. So now let's open the terminal in this mode with all our local stuff. So, okay, again, so that's for dark mode. Now you notice it bypassed the subscription area. Then that's for a subscription, API token, traffic, that kind of stuff. So let's go ahead and continue through that. Yes, I want to use recommended settings. I think there's one more. Yes, I trust this folder. Okay, all right, we made it through. So now, if you notice here, oh, it's going to give me another prompt to say, welcome to VS Code. Okay, got it, thank you. Okay, let's bring this back up. So now if you notice here, we have the Gemma 4 model showing. So you can see this is pointing to your local model. API usage billing, there is no billing because it's all our compute on this point. So now let me start off with a quick sample of, hello, how are you today? Just kind of show you like, okay, hey, this thing is running locally. So it's running right now. Let's give it some time to start up and go. Especially first boots are a little bit slower. So we're gonna let that run. All right, there we go. It says, I'm doing well. Thank you. How can I help you today? All right, so I'm going to ask you something generic. What are some popular cloud architecture patterns that you know of? Let's ask it something real, just a little bit technical. Again, this is probably going to be in the training data, so it's not going to be anything that's going to be, up from the web or anything like that. You won't see any of those searches or anything like that going on. Let's just go ahead and see here. All right, the tokens went, and now you see it is returning the results here. There are many cloud architecture patterns, microservices, yada, 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 yada. Okay, so now let me ask it, can you tell me what is the latest news on, and let me give it a URL to search. So again, I've disabled web search, web fetch. You're gonna see it kind of going here. It's not gonna be able to do much. You're gonna see it cap out right here. And again, this is a .NET blog site from Microsoft. So it's gonna give some basic announcements and that sort of thing. All right, it's using some tokens, so it's trying to decide its options that it has available to it. Okay, do you want to go okay, so let's disable. You see it's running it, trying to run the curl command. So no, let's not do that. So let's back out. Let's clear this. And we're going to give it ability to go to the web now. So far you've seen that we're using a local model. It's responding. All it's good to go. If you want it to crawl your, when it's doing the crawling against your code repo and giving suggestions, all that stuff is going to be good to go. But when it comes out to some of the newer and latest, greatest things, that's past this training date, you're going to have to go probably search the web at some point. So first, let's go ahead and install Playwright. So again, there's many different browsers you can use. I'm going to use Chromium because again, I am inside this dev container and Chromium is the most friendly. So let's go ahead and install that. We see that going. It's done here. Right now it's downloading the browser. It's going to run in headless mode. All right, so that's finished. So now let's clear that out. And now we want to go ahead and give Claude the ability to use Playwright. So we'll copy this line here. And it's basically saying, okay, Claude, go ahead and use Playwright as the MCP and use the Chromium browser. That's what this command is going to do. All right, so it's all set. So now let's go back again and ask for that same information. So let's go back. Oh, almost forgot me. And again, these properties here, you can do an export out to keep this consistently in your terminal. So you don't have to keep copying this whole entire setup each time. Or if you're like me and using dev containers, you can have this as a default property install, or I'm sorry, environment configuration. Also, from dev containers, you can also configure to always load Claude code in as well. So you don't have to actually go and install Claude code the first time. But again, sake of the demo, here we go. So we're starting this up now. So we're back to where we started. I'm going to ask it again. Can you read and summarize the latest content from, and let me go ahead and grab this URL again. Again, the Microsoft.NET blog. So now we should see it do something a little bit different. Just thinking about it. No, let's do something different. It's using curl again. Can you use Playwright to summarize the latest blog posts on, let me copy this again here. All right. All right, it's thinking about it now. Here we go. You should see a Playwright tool being called, similar to how it pulled Bash earlier. There we go. Now it's navigating. And so something you can also do in the pre-prompting or memory, you can tell it. And when you're running local in local mode, always use Playwright to go search the web. And there's other things you can do along the lines of that. But again, there's ways we can go about it to make sure it's not trying to do curl commands. And it actually will use Playwright to navigate so it can intelligently summarize things, take snapshots and all that good stuff. So let's go ahead and give that a second here to begin to summarize that. Okay. All right. Now you see it has grabbed the website and it is going through it right now. Unrising assessments, .NET 10 release. Let's move this up a little bit so we can see more. Let's see, generative AI for beginners, 10 months Copilot. Okay, so let's look at and just double check, make sure it grabbed the content correctly. So let's go to the integrated browser. I'm actually gonna go to that same URL to double check. All right, let's move this down here. All right, so what does it say? Announcing .NET 10. Okay, we have that there. It's got the date on it, November 11th, 2025. It's looking at, oh, your migration source of truth and modernization. Okay, yep. Looks like that's lining up. The modernization assessment. What else we got? End of support announcement. Yeah, so look, it's lining up. So basically use MCP to crawl this thing. So again, not as probably good as you would probably feel like your web search is from a frontier model using Claude Code would work. However, if you're running things in the background and you have some time and you're running multiple agents in different terminals, you won't be held up by usage limits and you can continue on at least with your work. And as you build memory over time, things are gonna become a lot smoother as well. So I'll go ahead and cancel that out right now for the rest of the session now. So thank you for tuning in. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below. Feel free to take a look at the repo and the resource links as well. And I hope that this helps you in any way. Thank you very much. See you later.